Happy New Year. Just giving it a minute or two. I started the stream a little early just to give. I know there's going to be maybe a few more viewers this time, so. All right, let's get going on this. So, welcome back to my live stream. It's been a couple of weeks. I decided not to do any like pre-recorded for Christmas or anything like that. Just wanted to give people 2 weeks, and you know, it's this stream is just starting, so the viewership is still smaller, and I'm trying to build the audience, and I don't want to insult somebody by assuming they're going to watch me at Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. So, hope everybody had a good Christmas, given our current situations. Won't go into that. It's not what the stream is about. So, for those of you that missed it, the last week I designed. The last one was about the camp airboat for Camp Zombie, the airboat that they use as kind of like the school bus. And this was the design that we kind of roughed out. It was a shorter session. And we'll probably go and explore it a little bit later on, but this was the design we ended up with, which is kind of a junky hybrid of a thrown together airboat and a really old school bus front, just junky pieces thrown together and things like that, with the rows of seats and such. And I realized that it needs something to like throw student duffel bags and suitcases on, so we'll figure out more on this in a bit. But tonight, to kind of get everybody reacquainted with everything, in for what I'm doing, creating this character, the character designs and the show Bible and all the concept artwork for this show, Camp Zombie, I figured I would go back and do some more character work, just some preliminary stuff. And tonight will be all about the side characters. So might focus on maybe the airboat driver, maybe some of the other camp kids, things like that. So I'm gonna leave. I'll copy and paste Venny over to a new document, and we'll go from there. And play around a little bit with some newer characters. Let's get him down there, and let's also gotta not forget my logo. Always got to keep that running. There we go. Okay. So, get that going. So I hope everybody is doing well. Again, this is an interactive live stream, so if there's any questions or comments or anything like that, shout them out in the live stream chat, and I'll answer them as they come up. If I glance up and I can see them. So, let's get started. So I figure I'll do a little bit of work. Where's my rough pencil? There it is. Work with the airboat driver. Just a little, like some rough sketches to play around with, and I'll do some rough sketches for the other characters as we go. Yeah, the 13 was fun. I need to figure out how to junk up the decals and the paint job on it more, and play around with that. But the airboat driver, the idea of the airboat driver is that he's a former race car driver. He's the cool guy. He's that's why he drives the way he does. Excuse me, with the airboat. That's why it's got a 13. That was his race car number. So, again, looking for those basic shapes, and I want him to have, a bit of speed to his shape, so we're going to play around with that a little bit. And, he's an adult, so he's a bit bigger than Venny. And maybe he wears, goggles all the time. Thought that might be cool. Might be a lot of fun. You know, like his hair is always looking like he's traveling at extremely high speed. It'd be really good. Um, and maybe I'm thinking it would be really cool if he was also actually a former camper when he was a young kid at the camp, which would be really hilarious. And it would be maybe funny if he knew Mr. Lurkin from when he was there when he was a human, and you know, for him, he just doesn't pay attention. Like he just thinks he's worked there the whole time. He doesn't realize that Lurkin's the undead dessert eater because of the ice cream. So he'd be kind of a little bit of a clueless character, but a lot of fun to play with. He's the hot rod guy. And doing this little fun thing with goggles that a lot of people do. Yeah, you like the hair. In goggles, you can move eyes around a lot as if it's its own space, and the eyes can move freely. I see a lot of people do that with glasses and stuff in cartoons, and you've seen that a lot in classic cartoons. So I'm gonna play with that a little bit here. Maybe make him a little bit cross-eyed, which would be really funny. Maybe he had too many run-ins in the car. He hit too many things while he was race car driving, or too many accidents, or something like that. A little bit of Launchpad McQuack from DuckTales. Maybe he's that's a little wide-eyed for him. He's too cool for that. Maybe he's got a narrow stare and a smirk. Like, he can handle anything. He's that kind of guy. These first sessions are all about the preliminary designs, just having fun and things like that. As we go, of course, I narrow down, and we're going to do that, and there will be some weeks where I spend it all on one character and just really focus hard, maybe for 2 weeks on one character, and there'll be a part 1 and a part 2 to that level of drawing. But he's got kind of a tight smile. Maybe play a little bit more with his body type. Maybe he's a little bit. No, I'm not going to do that. I was going to say maybe make him pudgy, but there's so many people that are already pudgy. Let's keep him slim. Keep him slim. And maybe do something fun. Just see what I'm doing here in a minute. Maybe give him like a broken steering wheel to hold on to. Something like that. It's the old steering wheel from his old car after he wrecked it for the last time, and it's his last memento, and he likes to run around his cabin on the stilts, over the water, just like pretending, and maybe the kids catch him or something like that. Like these little funny character moments. Be really funny if you found out he had a toupee as well. That would be it. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty high octane about most things. And he's got those one of those like jackets with the stripes down. Maybe he's wearing the full. He's still got his full driver's get up. Like that's what he dresses in. He's got like a racing jumpsuit, like the race car drivers have, and Okay, let's lower his opacity just a little bit and do a tiny little cleanup layer. He started I don't want the sketch to get too far away from me. But he's got sideburns, some wicked sideburns. But as you can see, shape-wise, he actually fits in really well with Vinny, and that's what I'm going for, because Vinny sets the tone, as I've said so many times for the show. So they've all got the whole wide stance leg, like thigh gap thing going on, and the other thing that I failed to mention too is that when you're creating characters like this, when you're creating characters like this for a show, you always have to keep in mind, how complicated you want to make the characters for the animators. Like, the show needs to be, if you're looking for a show that is a weekly show, you can't make them so complicated, because it's going to depend on the budget for the show, and that's going to play into a lot of your design work. Like, what's the budget for this show, so that you know the complexity of the characters that you're creating. It's important, and it's something that I have to keep in mind as a character designer. Like, rarely do I get the opportunity to just do whatever I want. I have to think within a certain set of boundaries. Yeah, the toupee would be great when he's driving the airboat. If he's not wearing a helmet or a hat or something, the toupee is like barely hanging on for dear life, and is just kind of floating maybe 2 inches off his head, and just the sideburns are what's keeping it attached, or something like that, or the goggles or something. It'd be really funny. And I got this idea that maybe he has a pet alligator, because or a pet something, like alligator, because it is in the Everglades, and maybe it lives underneath his house, which would be awesome. Like, who wouldn't want that? So, yeah, there we go. That's better. That's what I'm talking about. That looks good. So I hope everybody did have a good Christmas. I did. I love, one of the things that some of you know about me and some of you don't, is that I love to cook, and recently I've been studying my drink making skills, because my wife works for one of the largest wine and spirits chains in Florida, and we can get access to some pretty cool stuff. And I'm not a big drinker, but I like things that are delicious, and I've been learning how to make things. And we have a bar cabinet now, and she got me one of those whippers that, like, you see in Starbucks for like whipped cream and things. So I've been having a lot of fun with that, and with the gas charges, and you can make desserts with it. So I've been doing a lot of new food stuff, which is fun, because I think as an artist you need other interests to help fuel your art. Old race car drivers used to have a flowing, like, scarf, and just like pilots did too, and race car drivers kind of adopted that look a bit. Let me give him a little bit of a belly. There we go. Just a hint. I don't want him too skinny, but yeah. I thought about making him super hillbilly, and he ended up, in my head, he started ending up looking like a cross between Otto, the bus driver from The Simpsons, and some kind of, moonshine swilling bumpkin. But, racing got its start with moonshiners. That's how racing got its start, and I really thought I could play with that, and I'm like, then I got to remind myself it's for a kid's show. So maybe he could run something else that was, looked down upon. Like, maybe there's some kind of illegal plant that isn't a drug. Or some kind of soda that you can only get, and it's so proprietary that you can only, just swamp soda or something like that. That's what we can call it in the show, and to make it safe. I'm sure there's some drink out there called that, so I gotta be careful. But yeah, let's, now I can really go under and go to that underdrawing and play with arm position, because when I do that, it tells me where I need to erase up top. Oop, wrong layer. So that I know, you know, what I need to do there. Yeah, this is gonna be good. All right. Oh. And a quick word on, for people that are using Clip Studio Paint, they just did an update, which is really cool, and I'll speak a little bit. Illegal butter churners, that's really funny. They did this update that's really neat, and it does a few new things. So for those that are really wanting to try this program, you can get an inexpensive. I've got the expensive version of it. There's a $250 version and like a $50 version. And the $50 version basically has all the same base tools I'm using right here, but it also adds animation tools and things like that, which I'm not going to be doing for the live stream, but you can play with it. But they added the ability to import Photoshop brushes in Clip Studio, which is amazing. It's a Photoshop killer, because there's a lot of things that I would do there that I can now do in here. And if anybody's interested into why I use this and not Photoshop, I'll happily talk about it. But oh, and he needs gloves too. Like, he's a race car driver, he needs gloves. So and they also added the ability to do time-lapse recording of your art sessions. So if I had time-lapse turned on here, it would record all this in a time-lapse, and it would save it as a separate file, and then I could upload it to things like Facebook and Instagram. And I'm going to be playing around with that, so you'll see this stuff, and I might do snapshots just to get people excited throughout the week to see more of the live stream. So you'll see me do a little bit, maybe more character development if you pay attention to me on Instagram and Facebook and MeWe, because I'm on there now. If you pay attention to me on there, I'll put up little snippets of some stuff that might be coming up, you know, some preview work, things like that, or some further development of a character that I got going. Like this guy, I might want to do further character development. But yeah, he needs a zipper because it's a full, and he needs some stripes. I'm also going to do like some stickers, and he's got, you know, sponsors, and because it's, you know, NASCAR is crazy with sponsors. Yeah, he's coming along really nice. I really like this. It's a good session tonight. Well, he wouldn't be running, I would say he won't be running the actual butter churner machine. It would be running illegal butter. But I like the idea of him running, like driving something that from one place to another that he would be chased over, like that kind of thing. Maybe it's not that it's illegal. Maybe there's the local town or something has a thing for this type of soda, and the only way he can get it to the camp is to, you know, race it from one county to another without getting caught, you know, or something like that. Let's pull up one of those. So this is a tool I'm going to play with a little bit. That it's a concentric circle tool, and I've talked about this before, and a lot of other artists use it. So I get frustrated with drawing ovals and things like that, and this program has a really great tool to help you do that. And I know you can't see it very well. It's very light, and I probably should figure out how to brighten that up. I don't know how. I don't know what happened, but it basically can take and create concentric circles out of it. Gives you a guide to work off of, and it's really cool. And I don't like the way one of those came out. There we go. I need to nope. There we go. Okay. I'm going to take and do something special here. and I can turn it off. Like, it's just a guide that this program comes with that you can play around with. Ooh, I don't like that. And I'm basically just editing and things like that. I'm playing around with how the tool works. But you can see a little kind of pink line in some. I think the opacity for the tool is set kind of low. And I don't know where to edit that. When I downloaded the new version of the program, it may have screwed it up a little bit. But I can play. Nope. With spacing and such. That's the wrong pencil. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. Now, turn off the guide. There we go. Now I erase the parts that his hands are covering up. Don't forget that that transparency tool right there. And I'll fix his hands in a minute. But I want him to be able to like hold up this broken steering wheel as a joke. You know, if I was presenting this to an actual client, for the character, like to present the show, I would do something that's that would show them what the character's all about, and that this is what the character's all about. So we're gonna. There we go. Get rid of this a little bit. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's looking good. All right. Darken up some of the lines. Just give an indication of spokes for the steering wheel. You know, just nothing too much. Bring the column out a little bit, and maybe it's broken. You know. Yeah, so it looks like that. Model sheets, yes, if it depends on how involved the character is with the episode. Sometimes it just requires a single pass, and they just have a few drawings because they're background characters. He's a mid-tier character. He's not in every episode, but he would be in many of them. So yeah, he would need a turnaround. It's important. Anything that's somewhat of a major character needs a turnaround at least. And we will be doing those because there's a trick to doing that. I don't like some of that. This nostril's way too big. It lost some of its coolness. There we go. Get that angle going on. I want it a little more speed oriented. And I am happy to announce, for those that care, I got a new art computer ordered finally. This one it does okay, but it's on its last leg. I am not big on updating my iOS for Mac while I have a bunch of stuff running because it just plays royal havoc with a lot of stuff. It's the most artist complaints about Mac. They do that, and they do it without consulting any of the people that run the programs that most people use on a Mac, and it screws us all up. So I'm getting a new one. I ordered it today. For those that are interested in what I use, right now I use a Mac Pro Tower. It's an older one, and as much as I love it, it's like I said, the iOS is too old now, and I need to change it out. So the new towers, unfortunately for me, are insanely expensive. They're built for like the serious hardcore video editing animation software people, and they start at like $7,000, and I don't want to do that. So I didn't want to go as small as a laptop either. That wasn't going to suit my needs. So I split the difference, and I went with an iMac Pro, the all on the screen deal. And as small as it seems compared to my tower now, it's way more powerful and a way better computer for what I need. And I had advice from a friend of mine recently that said when you're buying a computer, you buy for what you need, what you think your needs are now and in the immediate future, not for what you might think 6 years from now, because chances are 6 years from now you're going to have a different computer entirely anyway. So, and the thing with the iMac Pro is once you order it, you get what you get inside it. You can't add more inside of it like you could at Tower. So I had to be very picky and choosy. So in about another month, because it had a special thing that needed to be added as a custom thing, in about another month I'll have a new computer, and I think the video quality of this will be much better. But I got to make sure everything runs, and let's get him over closer. So I had a great name for this bus driver, and it doesn't occur to me at the moment. I'll think of it again. I should have written it down. I usually do. I don't know why I didn't, but maybe he's missing a few teeth in there. Just kind of indicate. Get rid of that selection. I forgot I had. Sometimes I'll select something, I'll forget I have it turned on, but I want him wearing like tennis shoes, like Chucks or something like that, because that's reminiscent of children from the era when NASCAR was like a new thing and everybody was into it. I don't want him to look like he's wearing knickers. Let's bring that all the way down. I had to wear those when I worked at Disney World, doing caricatures and portraits inside of Liberty Square. The colonial knickers, with the puffy sleeve shirts and stuff. And I only have pictures of when I worked at the kiosk in Hollywood Studios, which was like a shorts and short sleeve button down flight uniform kind of a thing. So none of you will ever get to see me in my knickers and puffy sleeves, unfortunately for you. More fortunately for me. Yeah, this will work. This is a good start. I mean, he's got a good, strong design. It's the speed, it's the hair, it's the whipping back. I mean, I could see him driving this thing, and his hair almost getting caught in the fan blade. That would be really funny. I'm constantly trying to think of sight gags and things like that, for what these characters could get into and the possibilities of them. Alright, so let's bring him... Oh! I forgot to lower the steering wheel. There we go. Into the right layer. Yeah, and that's a good size, too, because Vinny's supposed to be a pretty small dude. And if you're looking at a size comparison, he comes up to about his chin. That's good size. That's a really good size. I like that. So this is like, the rough sketch. And I'll have to go back and rewatch the video because I remember I mentioned the name that I thought of in the last video. So I'll have to go back and rewatch and play with it. Fuel, that gets probably too much into the story for me right now. I'll think more on that when I paint on the airboat a little bit more. Swamp gas would probably be my first choice for that, and he has to go out and harvest it, and gather it himself. He's got some kind of weird mechanical thing that gathers the swamp gas in the, maybe behind his living quarters, his garage, like the garage for this airboat thing. Be really funny. Can't wait to design some of these buildings. That's going to be a lot of fun. Like the basic look of how they look, and maybe the lodge is very tall and rickety instead of big and wide. And it's one of those things. It's kind of like how cartoons treat buildings. It's kind of like the TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside than you think, so you can play a lot with that stuff. And yes, I did just reference Doctor Who. Uh, all right, so let's play a little bit with some of the other campers, some of the minor background campers, and you've got certain character types. Like I was thinking, it's all about a zombie in the camp, so we need at least one kid that's all about the horror and the occult or the this whole undead thing. He's really into movie zombies or something like that. And I've got a friend that goes to church with me. He's the drummer in the worship team, named Rick, who is really into zombies, and I'm going to be talking to him a little bit, just because he's so into it. He's such a cool guy, and he really loves the stuff. And I'm going to be referencing maybe some stuff I get from him a little bit with that. And but the kid, I'm thinking this kid is kind of a nerd and into this kind of stuff, but he let's play with some different shapes. I always go for that shape first, and let's. Yeah, maybe he's bent over a little bit. Play with that. I'll change his size as I go. He's got maybe comic books upon comic books upon comic books of zombies, and he's kind of like the two kids from the Lost Boys. Um, one of them was played by Corey Feldman, by the '80s movie, that were really into vampires and or really knew a lot about vampires because of their involvement with comic books. And they weren't really into the vampire comics, but they read them a lot, so that's how they got their info on how to deal with vampires. So maybe that would be fun to play with. Get some. Maybe he's really into it, but when he comes face to face with one, he's absolutely terrified. I mean, that would be, deep down he doesn't really believe they're real, but he wants to. His hat's maybe a little too small for his head because he really doesn't care about, you know, how up to code his uniform is, um, with the camp rules and regulations about the clothing. Yeah, that's true. It's almost like I call that the Snuffleupagus effect. The one kid that never gets to see the zombie, because for years and years on Sesame Street, Big Bird was the only one that ever saw Mr. Snuffleupagus. Um, but he's the conspiracy theorist, maybe, of the little group of kids. You know, um, maybe I'll have him sitting down instead of standing up. Maybe he's wearing a T-shirt instead of he's wearing his neckerchief, but he's wearing just some kind of T-shirt underneath instead of the official. Got curly hair. Give him curly hair. That'd be fun. Maybe he's the redhead. Everybody picks on redheads inside of cartoons. Everybody does. And he's a skeptic, so he's always studying, and he's always got his eyes, focused, focused, focused. Hold that leg too far out. I'll fix this on the upper layer. I always do one more layer to clean things up. The little camp. Soon I will have the name of the camp. It's going to be there, I promise. That's not been my number one concern. The actual name of the camp. The name of the show is Camp Zombie, and it's about a Camp Zombie and the Camp Zombie. Not that the name of the camp is Camp Zombie. So, yeah, so he doesn't have a perfectly round head. It comes up to a little point. When I was thinking about this kid the other night, I was thinking, you know, the insult that they used to give nerds in the 50s and 60s with Poindexter. And I was thinking pointy head. You know, it's weird where you get ideas from, but that's okay. All right. Let me take out some of these other, make him the center, because I always like giving myself the most amount of space when I'm cleaning up a character a little bit. Make it the center, and I need to rotate him ever so slightly to give him weight and to make him, there we go. He's still bent over. That's still there. Keep grabbing the wrong pencil set. There we go. Okay. And I am drinking coffee out of a mug from the Coffee Shop of Horrors in just I think it's in Claremont. And they're at Spooky Empire every year. They have all kinds of flavors of coffee that are really good, and they're named after horror icons, and it's really neat. But speaking of Spooky Empire, for those that didn't know, I recently was able to actually have a show in person, like a convention. The Spooky Empire convention. Usually I go to the one in October, and was going to do they always have 2 a year, and I was going to do the April-May one this last year, and that's the one I always skipped out. I was going to do 2 a year, and then because COVID, everything got shut down, and then they decided to have a pop-up event when things got approved for opening again in December. So, you know, some people are still afraid, and I get that. But I bit the bullet, and I was like, you know, I've still got to keep my business running. I've still got to do what I do. And, you know, that's just the way things are. I have to keep going. And, it was really good. I didn't realize, I was telling my wife, I didn't realize how much I missed going to conventions until they were gone. And then I started setting up for one. I was like, oh man, this is so therapeutic. I get to go to one of these again, and it's amazing. And the people were awesome, and everybody respected distance, and they respected the rules and whatnot. And it was really, really nice. It really was. The sales were good. I had some repeat clients. You know, people are buying stuff online. The most popular thing was my Monty, the Unfortunate Octopus series, which you can see on my home website, tkylegentry.com, and I have prints and canvases available at him for those that want to maybe buy some of my artwork. That's the link to my store is off of my website. And everything gets shipped from me. I quality check everything myself that I get from my printer. And I also ship it. So, like I said, I ship it from me. So everything is checked by me and packed by me. I don't have a third party yet. I mean, it would be nice to be able to just ship stuff from Amazon, and that is a possibility that I'm looking into. But that's a little too big business for me right now, and I don't know if I want to support Amazon like that, given the current situation that small businesses are finding themselves in. I'm all about supporting small businesses. So, yeah, there we go. And if you look at him compared to Venny, it's the same design type. The way I've spaced the eyes out and the way the whites are done, and it's the same kind of aesthetic that I'm looking for. So, and a big shout out to my friend Steve, who is taking up drawing as a hobby. And drawing cartoon characters, and he's been looking at a lot of my videos and other people's work, and he's kind of taken like this, what I'm doing here, to heart. And he's got a website called Burnsland, and his last name is Burns, and it's super cute. And he does a lot of Disney-oriented stuff. He loves trains. I've always loved that about him. He loves the Disney trains, and he gave me a shout out in his blog where he was showing off some of his characters. Like, if Burns Land was a real place, what would the people that live there look like? So he's starting to develop what characters there would look like, which is really cool. And I got to give him a shout out. So, and he'll be watching this later. He can never watch him live, but he'll be watching him later. So, hey, Steve, man, keep up the good work. Your character's looking good. You know, keep watching, and we'll keep going through it. So, big thanks to him. But he's an old friend from high school. A few years above me, and really cool guy. Him and his wife. I was both in his wife Laura. I was in high school with, just incredibly cool people, really nice people, and has a great love of Disney, like I do. So I'm still playing loosey goosey with my lines. Movement style of character is a joint thing between your art director and the designer and the animator. It's a joint thing. I don't have as much to do with that as the storyboard people do, to be honest. It goes from me to the storyboard people, and they or to both the storyboard people and the animators. And the animators listen more to the storyboard people about movement than I do. They take their cues off of that. I would work very closely with the art director so that I would know what kind of reference to give the animators based on what they were looking for in the character. A lot of it depends on how much creative control I, as a character designer, have over the show. Since this is what I'm creating, I get to decide all that stuff. But by and large, no, I don't have much. I don't say as much about that. I put some of what I want into it, and they can gain some of it, some idea of movement off of it. But there will be a lot of back and forth between me and an art director on how a character, the physicality of the character needs to be, and that goes into movement and clothing and everything. So it's a good question and a legit question. Okay, let's bring his hands a little closer in because I was making his forearms way too long. I can cheat it on this side, just to give the idea of what I'm trying to say. Let's give him really long socks, like he's a little bit of your atypical nerd. Maybe he's not sitting cross-legged. I don't know if I want to try and pull that off with this drawing. I think it's too complicated. Maybe he's just sitting with his feet together. Yeah, that'll work better, I think, for what I'm trying to say. Because a lot of it, when I'm presenting artwork like this, is about how clear I can make the character, and how he's sitting doesn't lend itself too much about what kind of character he is, so it's not important. And you have to assign what's important. Like, you have to think about what's important with the characters and how you're presenting them to the director if you're pitching a show, things like that. You need to figure out, in the simplest way possible, the absolute simplest way possible, how you need to present the character so that they understand who the character is within 5 seconds. It's very important that you understand that this kind of visual communication needs to be very accurate. And as far as the reason they hired you to design characters is because you can capture what they want in the least amount of steps possible. It's especially for this kind of show. Like, for this, I should say specifically with this kind of show, it's like that. Like, SpongeBob is the way SpongeBob is because people got what he is within 5 seconds. And if you're overcomplicating it, they won't get it, and it won't be as successful character design. You can like it all you want, but it doesn't make it a successful character. I'm only indicating fingers. I'm not going into too much detail. But yeah, these are, maybe these are like, maybe not comic books per se, because comic books aren't what they used to be. Maybe they're, these are more like magazines, like, you know, that play to like the X-Files kind of a kid, or, you know, I've seen Bigfoot, or, you know, things like that. You know, like some kind of childlike version of a tabloid. You know, I dated Bigfoot, that kind of thing. A little bit of shadow underneath. I don't like the placement of that. Yeah, that's good. Let's play with the size a little bit there. Let's get him back down to... Remember, Vinny's supposed to be the smallest in his group, so... When this guy's standing, he'll be bigger. Keep the head size about the same. So yeah, right about there. Right about there, that's good. And I'll add... No, I won't do the grayscale at this moment. He looks good the way he is. And this is all about the roughs, so... Alright. Pay attention to my time here. Got about 45 minutes left. We're about halfway through. I can create a character or two more. So yeah, we've got... You know, Mr. Wingnut up here, whatever his name is. And, yeah. Grab some coffee. Okay, so now we can just, you know, he's more of a specific character. Now we can just kind of play a little bit and have some background characters, because there will always be, you know, it's a camp full of kids, so you always want some background characters always floating around, and you want them to be specifically non-specific. They need to fit the style of the show, but they don't need to stick out so much that they become they overshadow the main characters that you're creating. So one of the best ways I've found to do that is to start pulling attributes from some of the other characters and just generalizing them all in one character. And like, you know, indescript boy, indescript girl, indescript, you know, whatever. And it becomes a lot easier. So get that white going there and make sure it's the blackest black. There we go. Okay, I think I was drawing with a dark blue before. That's why the lines weren't coming out like I wanted them to. Okay. New layer to make him disappear because he's not important at the moment. All right. So now we can just kind of really play. It's the wrong pencil again. Gotta watch that. Now we can really play with. And the funny thing is, when you start to loosen up with some of the other characters, you can actually create a better look for a character you've already created because you're not worried about it anymore. So I'm always on the lookout for that. If there's something that's starting to stick out more, I'm like, oh, that actually works better than something I did 2 days ago. Maybe pop that over. And that's how I do literally those hundreds and hundreds of drawings that a client will ask for when they're trying to come up with the base characters. They'll pick and choose pieces here and there, and I'll put them together with my ability to do that, and you know, we'll see what happens. Eyes are too big. You know, and maybe there's a section of the camp that's for like little bitty kids. It's like the preschool section of the camp. I've thought about that, which would be kind of fun, and they're the ones that, you know, cause the most trouble, which would be hilarious. So what would that look like? And I would also develop a way to separate the girls' and boys' cabins out. So, like, they're both members of the same cabin, but there's a boys' half and a girls' half, and, you know, that kind of thing. Not liking that shape. Let's get rid of that. Gadgets, he could. I don't want him to be a scientist as much as he is an enthusiast. Uh, I would say that needs to belong more into the realm of a villain, a real villain. The kid's just interested, and he's got all the paraphernalia of someone who's interested, like the posters and the T-shirts and the toys, things like that. He wouldn't have instruments. That's not the level that he works on. That the instruments would be more of someone who's wealthy enough to have them, like maybe the camp director has them, or something like that. The lore of the show is that the director somehow was involved in the creation of him as a zombie. He just doesn't know that he did it. He thinks his experiment was a failure or something, and it turned out to be real. Like something leaked into the ice cream years ago, and that's why they've got to keep him, secret. The kids discover that this guy is trying to create this kind of a zombie so he can control him or whatever. But one thing I've always wanted to do is create a female character with a side ponytail, for like back in the '80s, or from the love interest from Napoleon Dynamite. Oh my lord, so funny. Yeah, she doesn't have. It's a side ponytail. She doesn't have one on the other side. So that might be a little too non-specific or too specific for a side character, or for a non-specific character. So maybe she'll be something, more. She refuses to wear the hat because it messes up her side ponytail. That does some funny things with how the hair pulls around the back too, so that would be interesting to play with. And everybody has that weird look on their face. Let me give her a smile. She's very pleasant. She's maybe a bit younger too. Maybe her mom always sends like the best cookies to camp. And the zombie always steals them because he wants sweets, She's got like a sports ball under her arm or something, and she's ready to play. Or maybe you know what? Let's play with her a little bit. Just thought of something. Maybe I put it under this arm and have her arm raised so she's like waving. Yoo-hoo! Like that. Football. She's holding a football. And she's actually super sweet, but when you get her out on to play football, she's like super rough. That would be so great. Yes, very much like the creepy cute girl that doesn't say anything, but she's like super duper she's a lot stronger than she looks. A lot stronger than she looks. Like these are the kind of characters that you like that aren't in every single episode, but are great little tiny arc characters that have these little moments in the episodes that are just standout funny. For instance, for those of you that saw Claws on Netflix, there's a little girl. My favorite part of that movie are the little subtle things in the backgrounds, and there's one little girl that is part of the one of the clans of families that are warring in this little town. And when the postman comes in for the first time, there's this group of kids that are building a snowman, and she's just staring at the camera just blankly and creepily, like Wednesday Addams, just sticking the carrot straight into the body of the snowman, and it's like super creepy, and it's really hilarious, and it cracks me up every single time. And this girl isn't creepy like that, but she could be on a football field, you know. um, Fingers aren't doing that whole like yoo-hoo thing to me. I want to. There we go. Doesn't have to be accurate. I'm just trying to give an indication of what she's doing. That, you know, like yoo-hoo, that kind of thing. Perfect. Or if we really want to get funny, she doesn't play football. She plays rugby. And that would be a really fun way to introduce that kind of sport into an American TV show for kids and explain what it is. Maybe when she does speak, she's Australian. How about that? With a side, with a side ponytail. Oh my gosh. And that would make her also the girl that's not afraid of any kind of animal. Like she's not scared of alligators, sharks, snakes, whatever. She will confront anything and completely subdue it. That would be great. Yes. Yeah, see, this is the kind of stuff that I live for. This kind of character development. These funny little things that I think of while I'm creating this stuff. And, you know, she's like an extreme version of, you know, the female, like a little girl version of a crocodile hunter that just will run out, grab a crocodile, swing it around so she can study, you know, its mass in the wind or some silly thing like that. You know, just weirdness that creeps into my head. I love thinking about things like that. And Terry Ann, the girl that is the not villain, but and slightly antagonistic camp counselor, would have the biggest problem with her because, you know, she's like, you know, okay, animal freak, let's go out and see what you're going to do today. You know, like, you know, she would say all these things and then get completely shown up by this little girl and her abilities with animals and sports and things like that. She's a complete outdoor girl. And yet she comes off this cutesy little girl that just very daintily and politely gets off the airboat into camp, and then she just ransacks things when she runs into them. Um, like that would be so much fun, you know. So we'll explore that about her, and maybe her last name is Crikey. Oh, I can't stop myself sometimes. Maybe she wears flip flops instead of shoes. And think about that because why would she need to wear shoes? Everything's afraid of her. You know, she isn't afraid of her feet. You know, getting hurt in the swamp. Why would she be afraid of that? Duh. Yeah, and you wouldn't discover that she's Australian until like her third episode or fourth episode. That would be amazing. Um, she's an exchange camper. And maybe in one episode, the kid that she exchanges with comes back completely traumatized by the animals that are over in Australia because he just can't live over there anymore, or some hilarious thing like that. And she has to go back home, and they figure out a way to send him back and keep her there, keep her in at the camp that they're at here in the Everglades. And whenever she comes on screen, you hear a didgeridoo as a part of the music. Oh, how good would that be? I mean, come on. She has a boomerang hanging on her wall. I need to pull that further over. There we go. I was just about to say it's a side ponytail. I need to indicate that. Oh yeah, this girl is going to be a lot of fun. She's going to be a lot of fun. I'm having fun with this. Um, Maybe she's got a really good tan. That's the one thing I've seen. Everybody I've met from Australia, I don't know what it is, but it's how much time they spend on the beach. I don't know, but they have fantastic tans. Yeah. Sit and stay. I want to see her do that with snakes. Maybe she brought a pet from home and she keeps it in a box and no one ever sees it because, it's so dangerous. Nice. Yeah. There's some running joke about how she's actually dressed exactly like she does at home, and it's in the same kind of clothes you would see people at a nature preserve, like the crocodile hunters' kids would wear, or something like that. And it's her normal clothing. So yeah, let's give her some flip flops. Man, you could really play with a lot of gags with her. Okay, that was too rough. Let me do that again. There we go. Giving her too big of a puffy sleeve. I want to fix that. Like she hates arts and crafts hour. She'd rather be out with the animals. Maybe the rugby ball she has is like from home, and that's what she plays at home. She's on like a league. And I haven't developed like a bully kind of camper yet. I've got a counselor that's kind of a bully, so there's got to be at least one camp bully who's another camper who just causes havoc, and she's the one kid that will just stomp the living crap out of him. Um, and she would also be the one kid who, when she finds out, maybe in this little circle of kids that they have, she's the one kid that isn't phased at all by this zombie. Like, she'll just take it in stride, and he's just another part of the community because they have all kinds of crazy stuff in Australia, and she's seen stuff that's weirder or something like that. Yeah, sometimes I put my hand out so I can kind of get an idea of. There we go. Yeah, I was thinking it's something like that. Like her arts and crafts would be something just incredibly inappropriate for arts and crafts. Whether it, you know, maybe when she senses danger, her side ponytail, twitches, something like that. All kinds of funny stuff with her. Um, because Vinny is kind of like the everyman in the story. He's you, he's me, he's the way in which the vehicle of the story flows, and um, I want to have different personalities in here that everybody can identify with, but he's the main storyteller, and the other ones are kind of along for his ride, and they bring their own nuance to it. And she's part of the nuance. You've got the other girl. Oops. You've got Donna, who is attitude, all about attitude, and she's tall, and she wants to make up for how tall she is, and like she feels like off about it, um, and maybe she gets to be really good friends with this girl, and they're like the girl squad in this little group, and it's great. It's really funny. Um, and you don't see what maybe the girl's bunkhouse looks like until Donna talks about how kind of creepy this little girl's area is with all the bear. Maybe she's got bear traps and all kinds of dangerous things hanging around her bunk, or something like that, with nets and animal skulls and things like that of things she's caught, and trophies, and you know crocodile wrestling trophies, and things like that. And um, there's whole all running gags about it. That could be really good, really really good. There we go. Maybe she's got some kind of like sweatbands. I want to give her a little bit of an 80s vibe because Australia loved the 80s. Um, or she's from whatever camp this is. It's a sister camp of a camp that's in Australia, and that's how the exchange happens with her and an American camper or something like that. And she and the other camper write to each other, and he sends back letters. Sometimes you just get a little snapshot of him like interacting with local wildlife, and he's getting just barely escaping his life from like snakes and spiders and things like that. And she just thinks he's getting along great, because it looks like he's having a lot of fun to her, but everybody else he's terrified. There's little tiny things you could throw in like that, these subtle little Easter eggs that you could play with visually. I always tend to throw in drop shadows because it helps weigh the character down a little bit and give you a sense of size. Yeah, she's looking really good. All right. A little bit off balance. Always seem to do that. Every artist has their quirks and weird things that they do, and that's mine. I have a tendency to draw at an angle and I'm glad I'm not drawing on real paper. So, okay, let me. And she's. I want her to be small. I want her to be underdrawing in there too. I want her to be on the small side, roughly the same size as Venny. But for her, that's okay because she's, at this age, girls tend to be a bit smaller than boys, and that's how hers is, and her body type is. And size-wise, she's comparable to him, which gives him even more of an inferiority complex because she's way tougher than he is, which would be just phenomenally funny. Here comes this little girl. Maybe she's introduced a couple of episodes in. Here comes this little girl he thinks that he can be really good friends with, and she turns out to be way tougher than him, and that's hard for him to deal with. I mean, that's funny. She would be the kind of girl that would get up there with this driver of the airboat and like sit on his shoulders and throw both arms up in the air and go woo, Yeah, I mean that would be epic. But as I look at, I'm gonna go back to this little dude. As I look at him, I realize I'm missing an opportunity here. And diversity is important, and I'll speak on that. I'm a white guy, and I tend to be white-centric when I draw. And this, I'm not going to get into politics or anything on this, but it's important to recognize that and to bring other types of characters in and other races in. I talked about that a little bit with Donna. And this kid, this enthusiast, I really feel like he would be great. A little bit of shift here, a little bit of shift there. If he was Latino, it would be really cool because maybe he brings some of his mythology from so maybe he's Mexican and he immigrated and he brings some of the mythology from his own country, like the chupacabra and things like that, into this kind of thing with the zombie stuff, and you can really get into that, and the legends of the jungles and things like that from his culture, and all the mythology that's there would be really fun to play with. So I can indicate that with may give him some really dark hair here, and I can do that and indicate what I want to do with him. A little too dark. That's black. No, let's not do that. Because I want people to be able to connect from different walks of life with this show, and with that's important to he's got some really cool curly dark hair, and I don't want him to be an indistinct character he's from some Latin country. I want it to be said and known, and can make him Puerto Rican, can do whatever, but I want something else in there other than just me. I want to go beyond what I'm used to. That's important. For those that are into some of my other stuff, like my Aliens and Outlaws idea for a show is about a little boy who gets adopted by alien bounty hunters, and his name is Cruz Francisco, and he's Latino, and he was left at the doorstep of this orphanage on the American-Mexican border, and his the box that he was left in was from San Francisco, so it had the first part was rubbed out and it was Francisco, and Cruz was the maiden or her the woman who runs the orphanage. It was her mother's maiden name, and it was a way for her to honor her mother. So she named this little boy Cruz Francisco, to both honor her heritage and where he just how she found him. And because Cruz is by and large a last name, not a first name, but it sounded good together, and I'm like, how can I work this together so it makes sense? So I did it that way, and it's that started off. At first, I was going to make him just a regular kid, like me and whatever. But I'm like, no, I need it something that's a little more punch. And I studied more culture, and the culture in many Latino communities is family oriented. It's very, very family oriented, and he didn't have one in this show, and it's about him finding his family. That's what the overarching thing about the show is, and how does he fit in? What does that mean? And you can do that in any setting, and I thought that would be a great vehicle for storytelling with that kind of character, and I hope it gets made. It is in pre-production with a company called Magic Synapse. I'm working on another show for them called The Magic Poof. Um, so we'll see. We'll see, how it goes. I'm hoping that eventually it can get made, but Hollywood's a tricky place right now, and there's a lot of things going on there that I don't want to be a part of, because they get too. I want to make the show that I want to make, and they get too involved with whatever message they're trying to send, and if the message I'm trying to send and the kids that I'm trying to include aren't part of that, then it gets lost, and I don't want that to happen. I still believe in artistic integrity and being able to tell the kind of story you want to tell, and you know that's just how it is. I can't explain it any better than that. Your integrity about your art is everything, and if someone is going to mess up that integrity, then that's not right. you know it's not right, and that's all I'll say about that. But for right now, this is what we're going to do with this guy. So I don't want him to be cliche. I want him to be a unique character. Um, Venny is going to be, he's an Italian American kid from Brooklyn. And I want that to be reflected. I want that to be reflected. If that's the kind of character that I was sending out in the Bible to present this show, that's how I want it to be reflected, and it's important. And the same thing goes for this little girl with an Australian background. I want that to be reflected properly. So I would talk to a few people, when the show, like I say, that's got sold and they like her, I would talk to some people, the show people would talk to some people about how to reflect that well, in the most comedic manner without being cliche, because I don't like cliche. I like something unique and original. So we've got airboat driver, we've got little girl from Australia, we've got the mythology kid that's really into mythology when it comes to zombies and such. Good deal. Yeah. This is developing nicely. Got about 10 minutes left of the live stream. Yeah. Now I can go in and maybe go to the race car, or the ex-race car driver, the airboat driver, and start popping in some grayscale, to indicate skin and clothing and things like that. Um, I'm there we go. Hey, he's wearing gloves, so this is basically the only skin you see on him. Maybe when he takes his glasses off, he's got tan lines. And I'm going to give him a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow, just a little bit of one right here. Oh, too much. He's got some hairs growing out on his chin, but yeah, and maybe he's got some soot on his face, a little dirty. He's always working on his car, on the boat, say car, but they won't let him drive. Maybe he lost his license. They won't let him drive anymore, so he can drive a boat. They'll allow him a license to drive an airboat, and he barely hangs on to it. So yeah, we'll have fun with that. Maybe just darken some of the stripes just a little bit. Just an indicator. I don't want color in there. I'm staying away from color right now. We'll get to color. I did with the zombie a little bit. Ooh, that's too dark. Okay, I did with the zombie a little bit, but let's make it a little bit bigger. I want a lighter color, so when I darken, I do a grayscale for those patches, it stands out. I'll darken it just a little bit more, because the thing about the Cintiq that I'm using is it's pressure driven, like all Wacom tablets are, and the harder I push, the darker it gets. So I can put shadow in by just pushing harder. And you can also do some of the patchwork with the same brush, same color, just by pushing a little bit and laying over the top. Don't want to do that. I want to wear looking like Chucks. Okay, and then we'll just do a little bit of that kind of work over that to give it a little bit of shine. So, yeah, he looks fairly rugged, you know, because that's the thing, he needs to look a little bit rugged. That's the idea. All right, so we're gonna drop his drawing down on the grayscale layer because I like the way that came out. I'm going to drop his drawing down on his grayscale layer because it works. There we go. I'm just going to give her a little bit. I'm going to give her darker hair. Actually, you know what? Let's give her blonde. That'll work on her. Just to do blonde, you just show an indication of shadow and leave a lot of highlight. Nope, wrong layer. Didn't create a new one. Dadgummit. Do it all the time. Needed a layer underneath her so I don't lose I'm not painting over the lines. There we go. Just a little bit of an indication of shadow. Because I found that blonde hair is more reliant on highlight than it is on the actual color. There we go. Okay. Let's give her rugby ball some stripes here. Give her costuming a little bit of color. Like I did with Venny. And I'm going to select a general color from Venny for her neckerchief thing. I should have colored that in a little bit on him, so we're going to add another layer and go back in and do that a little bit on him so it stands out. It separates his shirt from his... Yeah, and he's actually wearing a t-shirt, so I can get away with indicating he's wearing the right kind of pants, but he's not wearing the right kind of shirt. He's wearing a t-shirt, like a convention t-shirt or something for like MonsterCon, you know, or something like that. Yeah, that works. Okay. I just realized I did something else stupid. I just put his shading on her as well. Alright, let's move the kids up a little bit so they're in line. Ooh. Put him on top. Drop her down to her shade level. Now I can move them around. There we go. And here, put him here. Because I like to see the lineup. I like to see size. Let's move down this way, and let me get rid of Vinny's words. You know who he is. I don't need the description there on everything that he's on. There we go. I can move them a little bit closer. Yeah, size-wise, that's good. It's about right. Let's put the nerdy dude there, and let's put her in the middle. That works better, I think. So I can see it. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay. And I still don't he doesn't look like he's resting on his rear end as much as he should. There we go. Okay. Get rid of some of that drop shadow. Go behind them all and do a line so I can see them for what I need to. I can place them all on a common plane. There we go. Okay. So what I did was I created a multiply layer, which means that the whites turn transparent on these layers, and I can see what's underneath through the white. And it gives me a better idea of things. Alright, so I need to lower her a little bit just to get her lined up. There we go. Get him sitting on the line, get him standing on the line, get him standing on the line. So there, I've got my sizes better. Yeah, I think this is working. Alright. So next week, I'm going to be probably going a little bit further on Mr. Lurkin. That's going to be further character development. It'll be like the next stage and a half. I'm going to be taking the color version, which is, sorry, here. Dude up in the upper left is the zombie, and there are parts of it that I like, parts of it that I don't. This is the whole idea of character design. This is what character design is all about, is getting it down to the actual nitty-gritty base of the character that you want that best represents what you do. So I'm going to be taking this and making sure that it stays in style with the other characters, because there's part of it I think that works well and some of it that I don't. So I'm going to be working on those parts particularly. So I'm going to be focusing on just the zombie next week. And then maybe I'll jump the week after that to more environmental stuff. And you know, we'll keep it interesting. I'll jump back and forth between characters and environment, and you know, because this is also world building as well, and what that means, and we'll talk about that. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll put it back on here. So we've created the airboat / bus driver, kind of camp bus driver guy for the airboat. We've created this new little Australian girl, and we've created the zombie kind of horror enthusiast of the kids group. And I didn't get as much into the background characters as I thought, because a little girl came out so good, and that's the trap I fall into. I start really getting into each character, and sometimes I have to forcibly pull myself back and just let it lie as it is. But you know, I can afford to have fun with this, and because it helps you guys understand what I'm doing. So this is today's, and I'll post the still of it up on Facebook and Instagram, so you guys can enjoy it. And you know, we'll see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. for the live stream, where we will, like I said, look more at Mr. Lurkin as the zombie, and we'll keep going on his design. So you guys have a great week. Peace out. God bless. You know, be safe, and no matter what it is, do it to your best that you can, whatever's sitting in front of you, and enjoy it. Peace out, guys.